What's up, guys? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and all that kind of stuff. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet for more Reddit content, and as usual, we're getting right into it. Random guy swears at me and gets his car destroyed. So yesterday, I decided to take a walk to the shops. I love to walk, even though it's about 10 minutes away. On my way there, I noticed that a giant part of the road had been dug up. The asphalt chunks were on the walkway, clearly visible to anyone, and the workers had placed a caution marker in the middle of the road. My guess is they had placed some pipes under the road, given that it was about 2 meters wide and spanned the entire 2-lane road. It was a pretty deep hole though, but not deep enough to harm a car if they slowly drove through it. This is in the suburbs, so there were only a few cars that were taking their time to get over the ditch. I hadn't paid it any mind and continued to do my walk to the store. On my way back, I had noticed there were a few more cars backed up behind the ditch, and they were moving super slowly. There was one guy that was leaning on his horn, waving his arms sporadically, and he was clearly upset. This guy was also in one of those super low-to-the-ground cars. Think rich person in the middle of a midlife crisis kind of car. I had to get to the other side of the road though, and I waited until the line had come to a brief full stop. I did a quick check to see if there were any oncoming cars and ran over to the other side of the street. Remember, this is the suburbs. There is no crossing and it's completely legal in my area to just cross the street. I of course had made the mistake of doing this right in front of Mr. Impatient. He honked his horn even more and yelled something out of his window. I just ignored him and kept on walking. A few seconds later, and right by the ditch, Mr. Impatient comes flying past me, on the wrong side of the street, and yells at me, and "F you too," while hanging out of his window. He hadn't even finished his yell when he drove smack into that ditch. It was a super loud bang and he was skidding to a halt. His entire front bumper was completely destroyed, and who knows what other unseen damage there was. I just raised an eyebrow and noticed a lady in an SUV laughing hysterically. I kept my cool and just continued my walk. Once I was around the block, I had to sit down to laugh. Karma, don't mess with her. It's apparently illegal to ask about a customer's, quote, service dog. Edit for context, for the record, I'm from Australia, not America. And in Australia, your dog does have to have a vest, and you should have some kind of proof with you. You don't have to say what your disability is. Just having a vest or identification for the dog is enough, and no further questions are needed. I work for a non-profit charity store, and we have only 2 main rules for our customers: no food or drinks and no pets in the store. Both rules get disrespected constantly, and today was no exception. I was working at the front counter when I saw a man walk in with his German Shepherd. I politely called out to the man and said, "I'm sorry, sir, but you can't bring your dog in here." The man glared at me and told me, "He's a service dog. You know it's illegal to tell us to leave, right?" The dog was not wearing any kind of service vest, and he had a pretty tight leash on his dog, something that wouldn't be necessary if it was a trained service dog. "He's not wearing a service vest," I pointed out to him. "He's got paperwork." The man rudely snapped back. "Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Just show me the paperwork and you can go back to shopping." "No, we'll be shopping elsewhere." The man huffed before grabbing his dog and leaving in a strop. So did he have paperwork? I'll be honest, I very much doubt it. If he had nothing to hide, then why be so defensive? I really hate it when people think that their dog is the exception to shops that have a no pet rule. And like, if he had paperwork, then why not show it? Like, we can't believe you at your word alone if you say your dog is a service dog, and lying about this is super entitled. Well, the answer to that, OP, is pretty obvious. It's because he didn't have paperwork. That's pretty apparent in the way he responded when you asked him to prove it, and he kinda tried to play it off by acting like, "How dare you ask me for proof?" So instead of showing you the proof that I totally have, I'm just gonna go elsewhere instead. You want a wedding cake for how much? I was very excited to receive an inquiry about making a wedding cake on my home bakery Instagram account. The lady gave me her phone number to hammer out details, so I gave her a ring. She informed me right away that she didn't want her time wasted, and if I wasn't serious about doing this, then to let her know immediately. She told me her wedding was in December and she just wanted all of the details arranged and done. I told her I wasn't in the business of committing to massive projects without some details, so asked what she was considering. She wanted 3 tiers propped up on a sparkly acrylic stand. She wanted fresh flowers, white roses and baby's breath, in a cascade down and around the cakes, which should use that quilted technique all over as the base. Or if I could use a mix of fresh and sugar flowers, that was acceptable too. But she could tell if the sugar flowers were store-bought, so I had to make them myself. She wanted the base tier to be chocolate, the middle tier to be carrot, and the top tier to be strawberry. She also wanted one of those little toy dogs you hide at the back, with a tiny bit removed to make it look like it bit into the cake. This dog was supposed to be an Australian Shepherd, because that's what she and her fiancé own. And if I couldn't find an Australian Shepherd action figure or toy, I should make it out of fondant. She asked me how much I would charge for a cake like this. She informs me she's local, and has heard really good things, and has seen my ads on Instagram, and they want this to be a blowout celebration. I told her that I would have to do some math and pricing, but I think she could anticipate a minimum of $850 to $900, which I know was lowballing, but I needed some time to do some sourcing and math. She told me she wanted it for $50. I braced myself and decided to play dumb, so I said, "That's a lot of cake for 50 people. The rest of the conversation followed. "No, $50. You want to spend $50 on ingredients? No, for the cake. The whole cake. $50 won't buy the flowers for a cake this size." "Well, that's our budget. Take it or leave it." "Okay, I'm leaving it." "Oh, that's just great. Really professional. What are you, new at this?" "No, you're just delusional." "Don't get snippy. I'm going to go somewhere else." "Good luck. $50 won't buy you 3 plain cakes at Walmart." Her, click. This was in addition to the fact she didn't own a stand like the one she wanted, and wanted me to source and or make it. Gypsy family was squatting in my house. I grew up in a village in Serbia, but after I graduated I moved to Switzerland in search for a better life. I inherited the house I grew up in. Today nobody is living in it, but it doesn't look abandoned. It's furnished. Me and my Swiss fiancé stay there when we are visiting Serbia, and I take good care of it whenever I visit 2 to 3 times a year. But this time, all of this happened this week. We had an unpleasant surprise when I found our entrance gate locked and movement inside the house. Eventually, the family, gypsies, husband, wife, and their 5 to 6 children, came to the fence to confront us. I said, "What are you doing here? We own this property." And the dad says, "No, the house was empty, and the house belongs to one who lives in it." And a random kid says, "This man isn't going to kick us out, right, Dad?" You see, my kids love it here. Also, you live abroad. You are rich. People like you should help the poor folks here. And they proceeded to hang out in the garden, ignoring us while we were trying to talk to them. I called the police, and the operator said they can't burst in just like that, and that I need to report those squatters at a police station before any action could take place. Because it's Serbia, nothing functions in the Balkans. Pissed off by the police and tired of the squatters ignoring me, I took a big piece of rock by the fence and I tried to break the lock. Huge mistake. A commotion started among the squatters. I didn't understand anything because they were yelling in their own language, and they became very aggressive. The woman started yelling profanities, how they are poor, have sick children. And at first, I thought this was a good sign and now they want to talk. But before I could say one word, I saw the father with something metal in his hands, yelling at me to back off from the fence. My fiancé became scared since things turned dangerous and told me to leave, so we did. With suitcases and backpacks still in our hands, we went to the police station, and after some strings pulled, they agreed to kick the squatters out tomorrow. Next day, we came to our property with police presence, hoping that the squatters would just leave when they see the cops. No, now it was worse. We were greeted by 2 giant dogs that weren't there yesterday, and a group of gypsies that came to the property to support the squatters. The officers called for backup and vets. Talking to gypsies was impossible, since they were ignoring everybody across the fence, and I was comforting my crying fiancé who was fed up by all of this. When the vets arrived, they tranquilized the dogs, which pissed off the squatters. As the police entered the property, they were attacked by the gypsies. A brawl lasted a couple of seconds, and resulted in all adult squatters getting handcuffed and arrested. As we entered the house, we saw that the interior was ruined by squatters. They were living like animals. Furniture was destroyed, walls were stained, there were feces in one of the rooms. And then, shock after shock, in one of the drawers we found a lot of valuable goods, probably stolen. A lot of golden jewelry, cash, cell phones. The officers took all of that so they could see if it was stolen, but we all knew it was. Last but not least, an officer told me this in the end. Some of them are going to be released in a couple of days, that's for sure. If I were you, I would be very careful. Given the amount of valuable goods or to get revenge, they might come back. Secure your property. It's been almost a week since I slept properly. I'm afraid that they could come here every night, and also I'm anxious because I'm soon going back to Switzerland. We're tired as hell. During the day we work all day fixing the damage, and we can't sleep at night. I just hope we don't meet them again. Update. The sting that helped us evict the squatters informed us that one gypsy woman arrested at our property isn't even registered that she even exists. She exists physically, but not bureaucratically. Her birth was never reported. She doesn't own a single document, and she's not a citizen of any country. I thought this was impossible in the 21st century. We've decided to install an alarm and a CCTV system. I hope that fixes the problem. People walking in the middle of the road. So I was parked in the grocery store parking lot today, and as I walked to the store, I noticed two women walking in the middle of the road. It wasn't that they were unaware, simply they didn't care. It didn't affect me, but people like that are really irritating. People honked and they walked slower. No one could get around them simply because they were being nasty on purpose. I think someone asked them if they could pass. I overheard one of the two women say, "In a minute, patience." In other words, they didn't move. My petty revenge? I didn't realize it until I came out of the store, but they were parked next to me. I was unloading my cart and one told me to move. Didn't ask. Told. Nope. I unloaded the cart as slow as freaking possible. The passenger needed in the passenger seat and needed me out of the way to get there. I simply smiled at her. As I got in my car, I overheard the woman complaining. Rolled down my window and smiled. In a minute, patience. It felt good. Anyway guys, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel for more Reddit shenanigans. So have a nice day and I'll see you in the next one.